Greetings, nerds. This is Scene and Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Hope you're doing well, and happy early Valentine's Day.
Yeah, tomorrow is Valentine's Day.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That is a day that happens once a year.
Exactly. Yeah.
So do you want to start off with the Black History Month spotlight?
Yeah. I found like this movie. So I've been I've been trying to like stay clear of like the usual, like, of course, trying to stay in the genre, but didn't want to do like, the top five, African American art and actors or movies and sci-fi or anything like that. So I was going down the rabbit hole as far as film history and stuff. And I found this movie from 1940 called Son of Ingagi. And it was like apparently the first like all black cast in a motion picture in 1940. I did actually watch it. If you go on YouTube, I'll post it on our show notes so folks can go check it out. But basically, it sounds a little bit like a film that I talked about last week with that is starring Io from The Bear.
Mm-hmm.
The film's the tagline is a newlywed couple is visited by a strange old woman who harbors a secret about the young girl's father. So it's a horror film, but it's also in the sci-fi genre as well. So it's about an hour. It's a fair use. It's posted on YouTube. It's about an hour and a half long, and I did watch it, and it was pretty good actually. I really did enjoy it, and that is again, like I said, just based off of some of the film history websites and stuff that I've been looking around and stuff. I think it was the first film that had an all-black cast in 1940, so I guess they were woke even back then.
Wow.
Yeah. But I'll post it on the show notes. So if anybody wants to, where I found it on YouTube. So if anyone wants to go check it out, you can do so. And but yeah, that was the profile for this week.
So I didn't watch any of the Super Bowl. Hello.
Well, really, as far as the game itself, I mean, it was over. Like it was over in the first half. I mean, hell, even in the first quarter. I mean, it was a dismantling of the Kansas City Chiefs by the Eagles. It was just the Chiefs picked a bad day to have a bad day.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've seen and everything that like I didn't watch it live, but I watched after the fact the halftime show, and I've seen things. Like suddenly my For You page on TikTok is flooded with all of this stuff about either the Phillies QB or the cornerback or the receiver. I think that's the position.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a funny change of pace than what I'm used to. But yeah, I don't really know how to talk about the Super Bowl. Will, you're gonna have to help me out.
Honestly, there were some trailers. I don't know if you watched the Thunderbolts trailer.
No, I'm sticking to a one and done.
Okay.
Trailers. I'm watching one trailer. I might happen to catch something, but I'm not seeking out more information about movies I'm gonna go see.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it. And even Super Bowl's night, I was like, yeah, still not feeling it. but so there was that. There was also the Mission Impossible trailer, which I actually did like that one. But the thing is about the Mission Impossible is they had, and I know Tom Cruise was showing the behind the scenes of the stunt that he was doing on the biplane, and we talk about films giving too much away, and I'm like, no. Why are you? I mean, I understand why he's doing that one, and they always do have some surprise stunts in the film that doesn't show up in the trailers. But I was just like, I was getting some vibes of, I think it was Rogue Nation. It was one of the other films where he was like off the side of a plane. But this one definitely felt definitely a little bit more intimate, given it was a smaller plane. So there was that one, and then of course the real, the big thing for that night was just, of course, Kendrick's halftime show, which I watched a few times. It's really good. I mean, it's like a blend of, like, it was style and substance over just, fluff, and also it's just like it was a master class of, like, how you can put on a show where you're giving a message, but also just basically, like, taking another shot at, like, Drake after the whole, like, it's just like, yeah, and because funny, because they had, like, the bars come up with, like, not like us, and then he, like, nodded out the back a little bit, and then when it came out, and then, like, of course, Serena doing the crip walk, and everything about it was just, it was, it was truly like art, as far as, like, a show itself. I mean, it wasn't like, a lot of Super Bowl halftime shows, like, are just big spectacles, but this one was, like, truly like a work of art. And it's just like, oh yeah, that's right. Kendrick does have he is a Pulitzer Prize winning artist. So he put that full on display for everyone to see. But yeah, but yeah. So those were just my quick Super Bowl thoughts. What's the game? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the game did look like it was a shit game with the defense, like, going nowhere. But and like I said before, I did watch the halftime show. Did I understand everything? No. Have I ever heard any of those songs? Even the whole "Not Like Us"? No, never heard those songs. No, but I do from a just what?
I said, I'm sure you've heard all the stars, because that was in Black Panther.
Well, sure, but, like, yeah, sure. Sure. Thank you for calling me out. But yeah, in my opinion, I
will say that. I mean, I'm not like, it's not like I have a deep knowledge of Kendrick's catalog either. So I'm not calling it out. There are a few songs there I was just like, oh yeah, that's the first time I've heard this. That's about okay. So don't feel bad.
Right. And I'm sure, there were some things that were familiar. I guess when I say the word heard, I mean, like, actually sat down and listened to and understood what was going on. No, I haven't really heard any of it. And I think mainly the thing I wanted to just point out or say is that despite all of that, I could see how it was much more of a story than in Super Bowl past, where, like, use the word spectacle, and I don't know if I would even describe it as that. It just felt like a lot of the artists have taken, like, that moment to do a medley and make it more like what they would do during a concert, as opposed to, like, a different level of performance. But we're going to get out of this subject because I'm clearly, like, going nowhere on this. And we're going to go into Paradise, episode 5, called In the Places of Crowded Kings. The IMDb synopsis: Xavier faces the consequences of his investigation, forcing him to consider how to proceed. Meanwhile, Cal's family history and his last days are examined. And that's the synopsis of the show.
Yeah, actually, for once, the IMDb pretty much it nailed the episode. I mean, there was a lot of depth, packed into that those two sentences there.
Yeah. I mean, but you forget all of the IMDb synopses that we read for The Boys season 4. They had some really good synopses.
They did too. That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
And some great ones. I'm probably just saying that because they were also the shortest synopses ever. They were like, yeah, that's great. It's in one sentence you're summing up what happened, but not really. So what are your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, so I was dialed into this particular episode. It really clearly moved a lot of things forward. It answered questions about Cal's last day, and poor guy. I mean, his final days on Earth were just it was he had a hard go. But also it was very interesting just to see the dynamics between Cal's father and Cal and Bradford, and as far as his honestly his lack of agency, but over the course of the episode, I think we definitely see him find his footing and everything. So so this week was where the flash, both I thought both the flashbacks and also the present day stories did complement each other very, very well. And I just, like I said, it was just really dialed in, and and the use of Byron's poem there, as far as I can't remember the name of it right now.
Darkness.
But Darkness, yeah. Really, really from the imagery from the get with the Washington Monument there underwater, and then of course they dial back and to the flashback, and then of course at the end, it really answers some questions as far as the cataclysm, but also raise some more questions about it as well. Which I think in the poem itself being about how some unknown force blacks out the sun. I thought that was just a perfect, not only from the visuals but also just the whole theme of the episode really complemented that.
Right. I'm sure I've heard this poem in other things, but because it sounded familiar, but I don't know it in any way. But I really like the opening, and I do think that the flashbacks carried this entire episode, mainly because I felt like, first of all, I love seeing James Marsden play Cal. Yeah. I am still mad that they killed him. We knew it in the first episode when we saw the flashbacks. It was like, how are we going to go through this with Cal being stuck in the flashbacks? It's just so hard. But they ultimately carried it because the story, like, James Marsden aside, this episode was really about fathers and sons, and just the dynamic, not just between Cal and his own father, but also Jeremy and him. And that was really done, executed really well, because the build up to the scene in which we do see the last conversation Cal ever had with his father that night. And he was trying to get some resolution in this idea of is his father proud of him, and everything that he's done. And up until that point, we see in the flashbacks through their different conversations that his father, even the way he spoke about his son, it was always like, or him, but also like even Tiger Woods, like it was the dad who did a good job, not necessarily the son who actually executed the stuff, right. The plans of the father, but it was the father who put forward the plans, and therefore all glory should go to the father, not the son. And then just to have that juxtaposed with Jeremy and Jeremy's guilt over the conversations he had with his father leading up to his father's death, and then being able to have that moment because Kane is dealing with dementia. They are able to have this brilliant moment of just a grandfather and a grandson, but also a father-son, where they're both able to say the thing that they want to say the most to Cal.
Mm-hmm.
I love that scene. It made
Yeah.
the whole entire episode worth it.
Yeah.
because I'm gonna be honest with you people. This show is somewhat losing me.
Mm.
It's just that I still see where they're going, and I'm not sure I like it. Just like, I don't know if this is right. I don't like it. And so it just bothers me because they keep killing characters I like.
Okay.
And I just yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what aspect is it losing? Is it the killing off the characters? Is it you feeling that the mystery is a bit forced, or
Well, yeah, the mystery's a bit forced. I mean, we talked about this a lot last week about Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and again in this episode, they're telegraphing, which makes me think it's not Sinatra. But at the same time, I'm like, what are we doing here? Because, like, okay, so Sinatra's behind the death. Like, clearly Presley was there, which I've already figured out. Okay, we'll get into. I want to get into Presley.
Okay.
Because, Will, you can believe me or you cannot believe me, but I swear to God, as soon as like this episode was playing out and when Kane recognized her,
Mm-hmm.
I had like this moment of like going back to when I watched the pilot episode, and I was thinking about during the opening sequence when Xavier comes down to breakfast and Presley's there. There was this weird tension, and I had a moment where I was like, okay, so Presley killed Cal. Like, it's so something, but I was just like, there was something. And if you remember, there in that scene, he mentions, hey, like, why is Ty's or Jay's bike still out in the lawn and everything? There was a big deal. She rode the bike. She rode the bike there because they were doing the Wii tennis thing.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah.
Yep.
So
yep. I do remember that.
Yeah, this is my theory. Like, that's why she was there that night or happened to occur there, because they were doing the Wii tennis between her, Billy, and what's her name? Jane.
Yeah.
And Jane. So, but also remember, Billy gets sick too because of they kept mentioning the soup. So I'm not saying it was Jane who killed Cal. I'm not saying that. Don't forget, there's another character. There's a few other service people who are seen in that first episode who could have easily done it as well. But somehow in the killing, the safe gets broken into, which I bet you it was Kane. Like, Kane broke into the safe because he would be the only one who could, right?
Yeah, right. Well,
unless Jeremy, but
no, I don't think. I don't think it was Jeremy. I mean, I guess Kane would be able to get into the safe because let's see, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, because I know. Yeah, because he would be the one. In this episode, he did. Now I don't know. Was it Kane? I don't know if Kane was getting Agent Robinson mixed up with Presley, or
no, he wasn't.
Yeah, or if
he wasn't because he says it at the end.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Like they play it in the they do a red herring because they have the sequence which honestly for two teenagers who are doing this little romantic dance, I'm actually all right with this whole Jeremy and Presley dynamic.
I do.
Yeah, I think it's very sweet, and I can see how it'll end in a bit of heartache and tension and everything, but so far it's not annoying because they're actually treated like, I wouldn't say adults, but they're not treated like 10-year-olds either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they have done a good job of writing these the two characters. I would agree.
Right. So Grandpa comes in, accidentally interrupts the kiss, and then they play it like he's confusing Jeremy for Cal and Presley for Robinson. But then later on, when right around the same time that they do the montage, and you're like Presley has a secret, it dawns on him like, yeah, I remember her because I saw her that night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot the little whenever she's looking under the mattress and with that piece. So thanks for reminding me about that montage there at the end. Yeah, because you're right. I think now that you mentioned it, I guess I did have that like moment whenever that was going on real time when I was watching it too.
Yeah, and I kept looking back on these past few episodes. There was a part of me that was thinking about why, like, they've been in there for 3 years, right?
Yeah, I guess it's been
2 years. They've been in there for a fair amount of years, we're talking. So, and Jeremy and Presley, like, are very aware of who each other are. So why was it like that second episode when she just randomly follows him into the library and something? Like, that was another clue indicating like she's also there. I'm not saying Presley killed Cal. I don't think that. But she knows something more, and I think it might even go beyond just the tablet.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I mean, she was clearly somehow, some way, she was able to procure that tablet that night.
Right. But then if you think about this, Will.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just that she found the tablet but didn't witness, because it's been a few days, a week at least, if not more. So she had to have run into, if she had witnessed someone kill Cal, she would have probably ran into that person at this point, right?
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, because the cameras are down, so we do know someone. I guess someone did come into the room from the outside.
What I'm saying is that since that night,
what
there's been, I guess what I'm trying to articulate is there's been no scene between Presley and someone else.
Oh, Gabriella. Or is she?
Huh?
I said, yeah, you're right. There hasn't been a scene between Presley and somebody else. And
that has, or even really indicated that, like she's afraid of them. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, this episode didn't Jane come over and like while they're exiting the funeral, and then Xavier tells Presley to, I don't know, but I feel like there would have been bigger signs if like, I guess really what I'm getting at is she may have found the tablet. And she may have been there that night, but I don't think she actually knows who killed Cal, because also remember, she's spending all this time with Jeremy, who clearly has a lot of guilt. So how are you supposed to make moves on someone when you know who killed your father? Like, that's a bit messed up.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I don't. Yeah, so, whether the assailant actually, in their haste and getting away, dropped the tablet, and she was, she found it that night, and just took it back, and hid it, but you're right. There's no indication, at least, because she's had interactions with at least all the introduced characters in some form. She's had interactions with everyone at some. Because at the carnival, she did see Dr. Tharabi. So and there was no weird vibe or anything there, other than she was like, oh, glad Dad's moving on, I mean, So
the person who she who she appeared most afraid of is Kane.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we're supposed to believe that it's because he saw her that night.
Right.
And she hasn't told anybody else that she was there and that she has the tablet. But it could also be because in his mental state, he could have accidentally got into a tussle with Cal.
Yeah.
And like I could see that happening as well based off of what was shown in this episode. But at the same time, we got this freaking Sinatra thing going on, which there's something about it that bothers me, because in this episode, Robinson comes up to Xavier and says the DNA from the crime scene never made it to the lab.
Yep.
And I'm just sitting here like, okay, like, I'm glad Xavier was like, no, this is not, we're not doing this. Okay. You can't come crawling to me now. I don't trust you. Like, even though we both don't trust her, that doesn't make me trust you.
Exactly. And I can see where you're like feeling a little like less enamored with things, because it is, I guess, the way that they have woven into the storylines as far as Samantha's treachery, or whatever word you want to use, as far as like, keeping the lie, and of course now we learn on it whenever in this episode with the flashback, we learn that we get more background as far as Billy being the assassin to take out the expedition to see if there were survivors from the cataclysm. So so I get, for me at least, they're definitely setting up characters you should root for, characters you are like clear, you're supposed to like not like, and then there's like the wild cards like Tarabi, who how is she going to fall down with all this, because she was Kyle's therapist, and we did see a little bit of that session, of course. She's hooked up with Xavier, and then of course she was also Samantha's therapist, so she could so she's all she's the wild card in all of this. And so
I don't feel like she is. I feel like I view her more as a hostage. There's something about her and what we saw, and her whole explanation for what her place is as the architect of social well-being in paradise, that still, despite that, Samantha has her under her thumb. So despite what she knows, there's still a fearfulness of Samantha. And there's also like I could say something now, but I'm not.
Go ahead, say it. We're all friends here.
I don't know if she really wants to go see who else made it alive, because in my opinion, I know Xavier's wife's still alive, and that means she can't have her happy ending with him. So I don't know. There's some weird. I've got like I know that the writers want me to like Dr. Tharabe. I don't like her. I haven't liked her since that whole sex session. There's something about the way that played out that rubbed me in the wrong way, and I'm like, nope, I can't. She's a pick-me girl, and I can't get into it. No. So I've written her off. Samantha, see, I don't find her treacherous. I don't like to use the words treachery or villainous about her, even though she killed Billy and she killed those people, because I think they're doing a good job about making sure we understand her motivations, because there's a line in this episode, and we hear in the recordings, that are about that where she says like, no, they have to die,
Mhm.
or you can't bring this person back with you
Yeah,
because
because really, yeah,
who knows who will follow, and
yeah,
most importantly, no one knows. So if people are alive on the surface level, and I never thought about this until this line was said, no one knows where they are,
right.
which is huge. Like, so they're survivors, but it's not like they're looking, they don't even know who to look for because their assumption is people are dead. Now,
Mhm.
Xavier's wife, on the other hand, she's probably doing her research. She's a
Yeah.
scientist. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think, and we theorized about this and talked about this before. Like, there could be other paradises out there, as that I don't, this may not be just a,
Yeah.
maybe they, whether Kane and Brad and President Bradford like built some redundant centers, like if they couldn't make it to Colorado, or what or if other governments around the world had their own things, because especially when you think about that, when you think about the conference where uh Cal and Sinatra, when they
Yeah.
first meet.
Yep.
So yeah, so, and also Kane clearly, Kane is clearly a very rich man that has a lot of influence. So I can't see, while he was in his good mind, he was probably, he probably has some, contingency plans for other like places too, for people to go. So
Maybe.
yeah,
I did like, and I appreciated that they made it clear that technically this wasn't Samantha's idea.
right, yeah,
It was Kane.
it was
Like,
Kane's.
this is Kane's paradise for his family, for his son
Hmm.
and grandson. And I was like, yeah, but now you're in a state of dementia.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
talking about putting the child locks on.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
like there was just something so interesting about that. But he, at the end of the day, he never had a daughter.
Hmm.
But I hope we get a backstory, a flashback episode featuring him and his relationship that evolves with Samantha.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think.
There's a reason why he chose her. There's a reason why, like, it always felt like he knew her better than even Cal did.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's clearly the case, especially given that, um, whenever Kyle does go and gets the tablet out, and he realizes he didn't have the clearance to like get to those secret files, but then then he, I think, to your point, they established that in this episode, that Kane and Samantha were had the strong relationship there, because as Kyle was starting to put the pieces together, he was, as he was gaining his agency, he needed to go to his dad to like, let me try to see if his palm will open this up, and it clearly did. So
yeah,
um
yeah,
yeah,
he was smart enough to know that, like, my fingerprint won't work, but my dad's would,
yeah.
and which is so annoying. um,
Well, I think it just really
you know,
reinforces the, like you were saying at the beginning,
oh,
it's just,
I know why they did it. I wasn't
yeah,
saying like
yeah,
annoying like that way. It was just
yeah,
it's more from the character perspective, an
yeah,
annoyance of like, really.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. And the other
the
thing
oh,
too, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the other thing too about, with Samantha and ordering Billy to kill her. Two things. One, I think it could be a, scarcity of resources, because they did plan this community for 25,000 people, and if other people did get out, did learn about this place, then um, it goes to my second point, which is, when Cal and Robinson were there in bed together, and talking about weapons and stuff, gets to, again, making sure that they did have guns and stuff, so they could defend themselves if somehow people did find out about it and they had to like fight folks off. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I love that line. You really think all of these people who are like filthy rich like left themselves defenseless down here.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, yeah, what kind of Kool-Aid was given out? What kind of delusional stuff do you guys think or have thought for the last 3 years that was going on?
Yeah.
I really like that. So the one other thing that I wanna bring up is the writing on the number on the cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Because we still don't know, because
Nope.
even though we watch it, we still don't know exactly what it is. I'm going to throw out a wild thing, wild theory here right now, because the first time that we really look at the cigarette with the number, like Xavier examining, there's cutscenes with the airplane hangar and everything. Mm-hmm. And then we get the flashbacks with his father and being a pilot, and they go to Air Force One.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's the call number or whatever for Air Force One.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
and there's something Cal hid on that plane, because in this episode they kept flashing back to Jeremy hanging out on what appeared to be Air Force One.
Oh yeah, he was there. Yeah, he was in. Yeah, he was definitely in Air Force One in the hangar. And you're right, they did cut back to it. And the first time that we do get those, whenever Xavier does look at the numbers on the cigarette, and then we see, I think it definitely is tied to it. I don't know if it's a code, a code to maybe the mixtape that Cal put together.
Right.
That's the message to get to. Yeah.
The mixtape is all of the recordings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that was to release that information and let everyone know about that lie, that we as viewers already know about. I think that's what's really also annoying to me. I don't we're watching other characters learn about this lie, but we as a viewer already know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as he said sniper, I'm like, oh, I see where this is going.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I understand this, right? I shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's not bothering me so much as it is for you, but I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. The other number it could be is the flight plane number for the plane that Xavier's wife was sent.
Mm-hmm.
So and she might have gotten onto that plane, and as you were saying, might have been sent to not their paradise, but a different paradise.
Yeah.
Point. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what else that number, because I know Kyle told Robinson the code to where the weapons are stored. So it's not that, because I think he said it was like a 4-digit code or whatever. So I was like, well, that rules that out. But it clearly is whatever. I'm just trying to think of all the various clues that he was trying to leave behind that he was going to share with Jeremy, and even though he was wanting to talk to Cal, to Xavier that last night, but of course Xavier wasn't in a place to. Their relationship was at that point was just so strained that he just wasn't going to be receptive to it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that clue in particular was meant for Xavier.
Yeah.
So and arguably we still don't really even understand why the cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very weird. So we're gonna get a flashback explaining that more. But all right.
We'll get a flashback for that, and then the only other thing is, I know they said that Cal was blunt force. I did have the moment where I was just like, maybe he did, maybe by some chance since he committed suicide. I mean, it's within the realm of possibility, because the other thing too is, the entrance and stuff to to the balcony and stuff was open, but that could have been Presley like running out of there.
Yeah, I had the same thought at different points. Even before this episode, I've had that thought when they were talking about the wounds. I'm like, well, it could have just been an accident.
Yeah. So,
and then but then it's that whole mystery, which this is the sad thing about Cal and the whole mystery about the murder. It's like, it's not really about the mystery of who murdered him. It's like, who has the tablet? And now it's how did Presley get it? Like, how did it escape from the vault?
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Cal could have easily taken it out of the vault. I felt like he did have it.
Yeah.
During one of those scenes, and never put it back in.
That's you know what I think. Yeah, because didn't he take it back out because he wrote on the cigarette and stuff, right? But that was that night that he died.
Right.
So it could have just been out anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is a wrap on Paradise episode 5. We will be talking about the next episode next week. And before we go, we're going to break down 3 episodes of Invincible. And by breakdown, I mean just talk very fast about them.
Yeah. Lightning round.
And Will gets to start as I try to remember what happened in these episodes.
Yeah, so Invincible season 3. I will say that it's nice that we didn't have like a long period between seasons this time, but also I felt like this. These first 3 episodes for me were very entertaining to the place where, we talked about the show being a good show to binge, and I really got dialed into it again. I think the first episode was really good as far as just sort of setting up the season. I think we really are exploring in these 3 episodes. Mark really trying not only to keep himself from becoming Nolan 2.0, but also trying to teach the same lessons to Oliver and as well, especially as we see Oliver's abilities really come into fruition a lot sooner than Mark's did. But one part of it is just Oliver's accelerated growth.
Yeah.
But 2, but also it's those teachable moments that Mark was really had before Nolan turned crazy or just went on his killing sprees and all that kind of stuff. Mark trying to impart those lessons that he that he learned to Oliver as far as not killing and that kind of thing, and Oliver like pushing back and be like, well, yeah, but you killed, so so there's that.
Oh, I am so glad that Oliver said that, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, but you killed. And I think that is what stood out to me. Well, 2 things stood out to me in these 3 episodes. And I'm glad we waited almost a year to finish watching the second season. because I think if we had waited a year to watch the 3rd season, this wouldn't be as relevant. But it was to have that moment at the end of season 2 where Mark does make the decision, like, all the excuses aside, at the end of the day, it was a decision to kill Armstrong. And he can still play hero, but at the end of the day, he did murder someone. And so they're coming at it from 2 different angles, and that I think are working well, and that I was not expecting. They're coming at it from the Oliver, who shares the same DNA, also part Viltrumite, and all of that fear of becoming that kind of quote unquote hero or savior for Earth, versus Cecil, who over these 3 episodes in particular, from starting with the first episode, he brings back reformed villains to add to the team, which really, oddly enough, Mark is like, no, these are the bad guys. But Cecil is like, no, they've reformed. And you really understand Cecil's whole perspective on the ability for people to change through that second episode.
Yeah.
And we'll get more into that in a moment. But I think that it's such, like, to have those two perspectives coincide with Mark trying to figure out his own feelings about his action. It's like almost you got the devil and the angel on your shoulders from the extent. Like you want to tell yourself that you did the right thing. But so do all of these other people who you beat up and who you kill and not kill, but who you throw into jail. So they were trying to do the right thing too. And they can change, just like you can say, like, I only did that because of this one circumstance, but you still did it. So I liked how I really liked how that all played out.
Agreed. Yeah, I did too. I think, especially, I'm trying to think if there's anything else in episode 1. I mean, really.
Well, we can go back to it as we think about it. We don't have to go episode by episode.
No. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I think, just thinking about really getting a better understanding of Cecil, and the conflict between Mark and Cecil, because we've seen this tension build up over time,
right?
And this these first 3 episodes, it boils over. I mean, Mark, actually lays hands on Cecil, Cecil could see it coming, and he had Mark go to that white room.
The white room.
Yes. Because because one, he at the end of the day, he was like, yeah, we saw what happened with Nolan, and now we got another one of you, and we've been we've been planning for this moment. And then of course,
safeguard.
Yeah.
Like it's just like what we were talking about before with Paradise. You think all of these rich people are going to leave themselves defenseless? You think Cecil is going to surround himself with people, like Mark aside, with people who could kill him at any, outplay him and but leave himself defenseless? No.
Yeah, for sure. But also with the white room and seeing the reanimates, it really gets into the the larger philosophical debate that Cecil, whenever how we see the evolution of Cecil, sort of have that sort of a very similar worldview as Mark, as far as these are bad people, we can't work with them. And then by the end of these 3 episodes, we see why he goes the route of, no, we can use these folks, because what was the, I can't remember what Cecil said. I'm paraphrasing here, but you can either play hero, or you can make essentially
you can be the good guy, or or the guy who saves the world. You can't
saves the world. Yeah. You can't be both. Yeah. So and I like, and seeing how we learn Cecil's backstory, as far as like why, how he came about having the scars. And it was not only from a from a story standpoint, but also just from a physical standpoint. He had to learn that lesson the hard way.
And about rehabilitation too.
Yeah,
Um,
because he got
how they put him in jail, and then they're like, "We've had so many few deaths here that we think we can let you out."
yeah.
I'll admit, I didn't follow everything. I don't know what happened. I was watching it, and next thing I know, I look up and I'm like, "What? When did Cecil go to prison? Like, how did this happen?" But I was like, "Whatever." So I just went along with it. But I and then they end it with him meeting Nolan.
Mhm.
Like, to go through that experience, because what we're seeing in present day is also not just Nolan, like, make Mark aware that he's not Cecil, like, they're not it's Cecil also dealing with his own guilt
Yeah.
over letting Nolan in and allowing what happened with Nolan to occur.
Mhm.
Um, so like they're both from their own perspective still rectifying that whole situation. Like, Mark is like, "I'm not my father," and Cecil's like, "I'm not gonna let you be your father."
Yeah.
So you, like, the tension is real.
Mhm.
um and I just need to get into this third episode, Cold
Yeah.
Open,
Yeah.
because oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was I love it when a show that can, I'm not saying that Invincible feels procedural, but there are some definite procedural elements, especially whenever they bring in the Guardians, that I still could
Yeah.
care less about.
Yeah.
But the when they change their formula and just open an episode, and it's not even like the fact that we are looking at two characters. It's they went for the, we're just gonna do piano,
Mhm.
and you're just gonna you're it's like a 1920s
Yeah.
silent film
Yep.
that is played out. And I thought it was so brilliant, because to have that open the third episode and knowing these three episodes play out, like, leading up to this, they've already dropped these ideas about rehabilitation and Cecil's stance on it versus Mark's opinion about it. And
Mhm.
then to watch the cold open of the third episode, I was just like, that's bringing me in as a viewer, and
Yeah.
also allowing me not only to really understand what the themes are this season that are unique to previous seasons.
Mhm.
Because I think at this point with Invincible, like, we're in the third season. At this point, I'm used to characters suddenly just going in a circle. And I
Yeah.
feel like, oddly enough, we're really seeing these, Mark in particular, evolve and change for better and for worse, but continue to grow.
Mhm.
Like, I don't feel like his growth is stunted.
No.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the opening. I think that was, with that cold open with the third episode, that is what, like, really sealed it for me, as far as, like, okay, this show's moving in a direction that I feel it is a positive one.
Mhm.
Because I felt that the second season, we broke it up, but it did feel like there, I think there were some moments where, and maybe that's why I think why we stepped away from it. It would just seem like it was just sort of going. It didn't really, things weren't moving ahead much as far as the plot. But this one, I feel, yeah, really, like you said, it just really captures the overarching themes of this season so far,
Mhm.
and what we're going to see. I think, that we're going to see this season, and using that story of those two criminals who try to reform, and the desperation, and they had success,
Yeah.
and then at the end of the day, they reverted back to their, what they know.
But they were like, in a way, it's not just that they reverted back to it. It's that you saw how they were pushed.
Yeah.
Like the forces were against them. And I think that's where they're taking a very black and white concept and worldview that Mark has, and they're shading the gray and saying like, it's not that simple. Okay. Like, remember when like someone broke your mom's arm and then you killed him?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, because so I think that was just the brilliance of it, and that's where I was like, oh yeah, I'm really enjoying this season so far because of that, and then of course, and we see that throughout the rest of the episode, as far as even a sort of a callback to season 1, like whenever Mark, when Cecil like used the failsafe in his head, and then once they were able to disable it, but then Mark went on a spree just like Nolan did, with at least in the first season it was Guardians of the Globe, but then here it was those reanimates, but it was like almost beat for beat what happened there. So
you even have Rex go on his, like, they keep talking. I thought you were changing, like not cursing as much and not being as much of a misogynist and all of that. Like Rex is growing on me, where I don't like he actually played the part that I feel like they've been trying to get him to play, where his comedy actually worked because it was a humorous reflection of the dramatic story beats that are currently at play, in a bizarre way. And I really like that. And I mean, to your point, like, to have that cold open featuring adults, like adults, to bookend it with a child out of desperation, out of fear of losing his brother, and also just like trying to stop the bad guys, kills the bad guys in the end. And that's that moment when the Guardians walk in, and it's just Oliver standing there, and also that the blood, and you see that throughout the episode too, where these two characters who we meet in the beginning are two characters who Oliver and Mark end up facing off against. And at one point, it looked like they were actually holding their own, and then they realize how young Oliver is.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's like, so like the humanity that they were able to web into those scenes allowed what they were doing to be much more gray and much more like pointing out the kind of the sadness and the loss of innocence that is at play. Completely agree. Why did so Oliver is gonna go by what name? It's not gonna be Kid Omni-Man. And then Mark's now Invincible.
Invincible, yeah. I thought that was so funny. It's just like he changed his costume, and everybody was like, "Oh, they see him as a sidekick."
Yeah. And then at the end, they also tease that Angstrom Levy is watching and still alive in the background, which I'm glad, because I think you brought it up earlier, season 2. I think season 2, worst scheduling of a show I've ever seen and experienced, because of the 2 halves. In that first half, we spent so much time building up Angstrom. And then it was just like we were checked out, because it was like, what's the point? But I'm glad that, like, I feel like at this point it's kind of worth it, because I can understand why without that backstory, him and his whole vendetta, it wouldn't matter as much. And it would also not be allow as much reflection in Mark and his actions that we're seeing. So yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. When we were talking about the Mulder the twins and even like going back to the first episode too with the Dr. Sesmic. I like how they bring these villains back and use them in appropriate ways. Even with the cracks. Whenever Seismic like gives the shot to Eve and Mark as far as the sexist tropes and all that kind of stuff, and then she fires back, she's like, he's just old generic superhero, generic supervillain. So I like those little in story like cracks of humor but also that there are these ongoing characters resurface in this show just to like basically show again, just remind us of like the world that Invincible lives in, and he does have some recurring villains, and it also just reinforces the point too, like as far as like with Oliver was trying to understand like why are you letting these bad guys go all the time, why can't we just kill them? So there's just so many levels how Oliver's questions and questioning Mark about good versus evil and good guys versus bad guys, and not not using these opportunities to stop these bad guys once and for all, and Mark just having to reflect and remember the choice that he always makes every time he uses his powers and stopping these folks that no killing. So it's just, for me, it's just a nice way of this storytelling with this season so far, and how they've established these elements setting up, and then of course we still have Alan and Nolan in the prison. They touched on it a little bit, but they didn't spend too much time on it. And then of course and another thing too I did like with this block of episodes is Debbie and moving on with her life and having a relationship with Paul, and but also
trying to be a mother to Oliver. I really like that. Thank you for bringing up Debbie, because I really do appreciate. I feel like she is so much more stronger this season, and or ever since the last few episodes of season 2 where Oliver came into play, and just I always commend her because of her clear love for Oliver. And just I like how she's not the evil stepmom. I like how she's not resentful towards him. Like there's a beauty in that, that and how she's almost trying to get things right with Oliver because she feels like she made some mistakes with how she handled Mark. When he was around that age. So I really appreciate that. And we're gonna continue the discussion. Not next week. We got a tiny little film to talk about next week. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with more Invincible discussion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about more Invincible, and of course, we'll be back for Paradise next week, and that little film that's dropping this weekend. So we'll give our takes on Captain America 4.
Great New World Order. I was going to say Brave New World, but no, it's New World Order. Just like the reshoots. I've lost track of like what's the subtitle for that damn film. Yeah. All right. On that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the socials at Will and Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at Scene and Nerd. Friend us on Blue Sky at Scene and Nerd. And friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd. And visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.